Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Liam Douglas here, and in today's video we're going to ask and answer the question, is the Fujifilm X100V still viable in 2024? But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Okay, so the Fujifilm X100V was released in February of 2020, so it's now about 4.5 years old. It was the successor to the Fujifilm X100F, and it had a lot of major updates over the F and the previous Fujifilm X100 models. Most notably, Fujifilm totally redesigned the 23mm f2 lens to make it much better as far as image quality and low light performance than the previous versions were. They also upgraded it to their X-Trans 4 CMOS sensor as well as their X Processor 4. And of course, like all the previous versions, if you put the proper filter and lens hood on it, you can make it fully weather sealed, which I have done with mine. I permanently keep the Moment Cinebloom 10% diffusion filter on mine, just because I really like the look that it gives my images, so I use that pretty much all the time. Now, as far as most everything else between the X100V and all the previous versions was pretty much the same as far as overall design and aesthetics. They did also add the two-way tilting flip screen on the back for this model, so that was another one of the new additions. Now, of course, the X100V has since been replaced by the X100VI, which Fujifilm announced and released earlier this year in 2024. However, as of this recording, it is still virtually impossible to get your hands on an X100V. Now, Fujifilm did ramp up production for the release of the X100VI by building a factory in China that can, I guess, according to their figures, it can do 15,000 units per month productivity or production quota. But rumor is that Fuji has over 500,000 pre-orders for the X100VI. And if that's the case, even at 15,000 units being produced every month, it's going to take 3 years for that factory to get cameras in the hands of those 500,000 people. So the X100VI is virtually impossible to get, and the X100V is still in super high demand. I apologize for the idiot with the loud truck going by. They seem to swarm around our house for whatever reason with their loud exhaust pipes. But anyways, getting back to the X100V. This camera has a 26 megapixel X-Trans 4 CMOS sensor, and it makes amazing images. The performance increases they made in this generation improved its low light capabilities, noise reduction capabilities, new algorithms for their JPEGs, new film recipes, just made this a really great camera. And a lot of reviewers said that this was finally the most perfect version of the X100 camera to ever be released. Now, what about the 6? Well, again, the 6 is impossible to get right now. They did upgrade to the new X-Trans 5 CMOS sensor, which is 40 megapixels. It's the same sensor that's in the X-T5 and the X-H2. They added IBIS, and they also added 6K video. But for me personally, do I need any of that? Absolutely not. To me, the X100V is the perfect street and travel photography camera. 26 megapixels is more than enough for what I need for my use cases. I don't really care if it has IBIS or not. I don't need it. I don't need the 6K video because I pretty much never shoot video with my X100V. I've got dedicated cameras for shooting video like the Ace Pro from Insta360 that I'm shooting this video on. And I've also got the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and a few other video-centric cameras that I use for shooting video. But this is my go-to camera for street and travel photography. I take it with me all the time when we go up to New York and Pennsylvania to visit our kids and grandkids. I use it to get candid family snapshots. I use it for street photography around New York State, and of course travel photography because we're traveling at the time. And the majority of the time, if I go anywhere, even back here in North Carolina, if I go out for the day or go out to the store or whatever the case may be, 99 times out of 100, this camera is in the car with me in case I see something interesting that I want to shoot while I'm out and about. Now, like I said, this is a premium point and shoot camera, very excellent build quality, very sturdy, very versatile camera. The leaf shutter in this makes this one of the premier cameras, if not, in my opinion, it is the most premier camera for street and travel photography, because the leaf shutter allows you to use higher shutter speeds than you normally could. So on a bright sunny day, let's say you were outside doing portraits with somebody, you could add in studio fill lighting, battery operated fill lights or plug-in fill lights if you have outdoor outlets, and you can use the leaf shutter to knock down the ambient light in the background to more balance it with the artificial light that you're using as a fill light on your subject. So it's another one of the benefits of this camera system. One of the only other camera systems that has a leaf shutter is the Ricoh GR3. And that one is a popular camera for both street and travel photography as well, again, because of the leaf shutter. Now, the Ricoh has two versions. They have a 28mm full frame equivalent lens and a 40mm full frame equivalent lens. But if you've been following me, you've listened to my podcast, watched my videos, I still say that the 23mm f2 on the Fujifilm X100V, X100V, I'm sorry, I'm getting my GFX and X stuff mixed up, is the best camera for street photography. It's 35mm full frame equivalent field of view at f2. This is the king of street photography lenses, and it is also the best travel photography lens. And it's not just me saying that. A lot of professional street and travel photographers agree with me on that point. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of the images that I've captured this year with the X100V so you can see the image quality for yourself, and then we'll come back and wrap up this video. Okay, so as you saw in my image slideshow, I've gotten some truly amazing images with my X100V. Now, street photography, I do tend to shoot in black and white, hence that's why all the images were in black and white. But when I'm doing standard travel or just candid snapshots of my kids and grandkids, I'll do those in full color. To me, street photography has always been better if it's in black and white because you get better contrast. It adds more of a mood or a better feel to the images, in my opinion. And again, I'm not the only one. A lot of other photographers like to shoot their street photography in black and white. But again, there are quite a few that shoot in color as well. So you get an idea of the image quality that I can get from this camera, and whether or not this camera is still relevant. Well, absolutely. Just because it's 4.5 years old doesn't mean this camera is useless. It's still a juggernaut of a street photography camera. In my opinion, it's still the king of street photography cameras. Even though the X106 has some major upgrades with the bigger sensor and IBIS and all that, I still personally feel this camera is the king of street and travel photography, especially street. And that's why this is the camera I always reach for when I shoot street photography. As far as availability, well, you're kind of a little bit out of luck there. You can find X100Vs for sale, used ones. The new ones are no longer available, of course, because it's been replaced by the X106. But be prepared. If you want to pick up an X100V, you're going to pay a considerable amount of money. Now, before I shot this video today, I checked on both eBay and Amazon. On eBay, I was able to find a handful of them for as low as $1,700, which is still $200 over its original MSRP of $1,500. But I've also seen them selling on eBay for as high as $2,500, $2,600, $2,700 for a used one, well above MSRP. And it's the same story on Amazon. When I looked for this camera on Amazon, I could find sellers that had it available in the black and silver, which is the one I prefer. But again, you were talking $2,600, $2,700, well above MSRP. You know, you're talking an extra $1,100, $1,200 for this camera to get it used today, because the demand is so high for this camera and for its successor, the X100VI. That's why both cameras are extremely hard to come by. And if you can find either model on eBay or Amazon, you're going to pay a premium because everybody's jacking up the prices on them because of the super high demand. Now, what else is it that I like about this camera? Well, I love the black and silver edition. That's the one I opted for. I didn't want the all black edition because this one, to me, is a nostalgia thing. It's a throwback to when I shot film cameras. Most of my film cameras back in the day were black and silver like this. And to be honest, when I go out and do street photography with the X100V, I have a lot of people stop me and ask me, hey, are you shooting with a film camera? That looks like an old school film camera. And I tell them, no, it's the X100V. It's an all digital mirrorless camera, but it's aesthetically designed to look like a film camera. And then, of course, the other thing that I really love about the X100V is the fact that you have two viewfinders. You have an EVF, or an electronic viewfinder. You also have the option to activate an OVF, or optical viewfinder. Now, the optical viewfinder is what I use all the time when I go out with my X100V. It's also the viewfinder that I prefer to use on my X Pro 3 because that has that feature as well. I just love using the optical viewfinder. I like having the frame lines, the box, you know, so I know I've got what my composition is and whether or not it's properly in frame and all of that. I just love that. Sure, with the EVF, you can see your exact exposure in real time, but I've been shooting for over 40 years, so trust me, I got my exposure triangle down pat. I got that cold, so I never have to worry about that. So I stick with the OVF on both this camera and my X Pro 3 at all times. So to answer the question at the start of this video, is the X100V still relevant in 2024? And the answer is absolutely. This camera makes stunning images. It has all the film recipes, the film simulations from Fujifilm. You can add your own custom recipes and store them in the camera as well. I don't prefer to do that. I prefer to shoot using the natural film simulations that Fujifilm gave me. And if I really want to add 𝐸ALA-ACE, which isn't available on this camera, it's only available on the X-T5, the X100V, and the XH2, as well as the newer GFX bodies, I can add it and capture one after the fact, which is a lot easier because it doesn't slow the performance of my camera down. I'll put a link in the description down below for an article on how you can add 𝐸ALA-ACE to your Capture One if that's the software you're using, and you'll be able to apply the 𝐸ALA-ACE film simulation to most any Fujifilm camera that you own. And that's what I've done with my Capture One. I've modified it so all of my cameras that aren't hardware capable of 𝐸ALA-ACE inside the camera itself as a film simulation, I have the settings pre-saved in Capture One for each of the bodies that I own, so I can just select it from styles, boom, and I've got 𝐸ALA-ACE for all of my images. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. Please remember to subscribe down below, turn on all notifications. I want to thank you one last time for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.